For our system, we are really making sure that we're robust to those and that our sensor set enables a lot of that visibility and light conditions.
Coach T, we're running out of time. Where can we find out more about this? Is there a website?
There is. We have a lot of information on our GM website as well as the Cadillac website, especially as we talk about the Celestiq and get it ready for production.
So gm.com, where you can also go to the Cadillac site and go there and find out more about it, because I bet you it's going to be a big selling point. Thanks for joining us today. That was really awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very excited.
That was Kosi Shami from GM talking about their new Ultra Cruise. Man, it's going to be the greatest. All right, folks, great information. After the short break, we'll be back with more Let's Talk Wheels. So hang on. Be right back.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-858-6811. 800-858-6811. 800-858-6811. That's 800-858-6811.
Just saying it with Cole Thompson.
So much that I look at right now is going to be based in the very early stages of the NFL offseason with the New York Jets. They need to land themselves a quarterback. But if you're trying to win now, which does feel like the window of opportunity for New York is open after what they did last two drafts, then you have to go ahead and get the best option. Aaron Rodgers is the best option. And it does feel like that if Aaron Rodgers at least is willing to play for 2 or 3 years with this team, and as long as he does, I think that you'll be able to at least see them not only make the postseason every year or be in the conversation for the postseason every year, but also maybe go deeper and deeper into the playoffs. Last season, the reason why you missed out on the playoffs as a general was because you didn't have the right gunslinger in the motion. What happens if you don't have a gunslinger at all? You're basically shooting blanks and you're wondering what the hell happened at the end of the year.
Just saying it. Weekdays from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Sports Kings with Mean Gene.
Joker puts up damn near a triple-double night in, night out. And the guy who has played with a team that had 2 major injuries with Porter and Jamal Murray, and he's still carrying the team. MVP is supposed to be the guy that if he was not there, you wouldn't be winning. The Joker is that guy, and I think he's going to win another MVP.
Sports Kings, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 Eastern.
The diehards.
It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Tom Brady. It's Joe Montana. Are those your top 3 quarterbacks of all time, or do you have a different order?
I think you got to have Tom and Joe above Pat. After LeBron's second finals win, were you going to put him next to Jordan? No. You got a couple more, and then you start the conversation again. Patrick Mahomes is still 27 years old. He's fresh off his second Super Bowl victory. He's dominating the AFC conference, right? I mean, you have the AFC West loading up with Russell Wilson. The Chargers got a whole new defense. You got Devontae Adams go to the Raiders. And then Patrick Mahomes, without Tyreek Hill, is still in the Super Bowl. So the path is clearly there. Once we get into, 3, 4 Super Bowl wins, I think that's when you can start those conversations.
I'm of the mindset that it's going to take time. But I think it's also been evident for a while now that Mahomes could retire having surpassed Tom Brady. As crazy as that might sound to some, that he could go down as the GOAT.
The Diehards, weeknights from 8 to 10 Eastern on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Imagine learning about radio and being mentored by true radio professionals in real radio stations. Well, actually, you don't have to imagine, because there's Radio Connection. Radio Connection gives you the opportunity to learn one-on-one and be mentored by radio pros. Plus, you don't have to worry about getting into a crazy amount of debt with school tuition either. Radio Connection keeps their tuition at much lower costs. To find out more info, visit radioconnection.com.
You're listening to the Let's Talk Wheels radio network. here's Jeremy Birnbaum and Mike Herzing.
Welcome back. Let's talk wheels. Mike Herzing and Jeremy Birnbaum. Tell you what, that was interesting to hear about the Ultra Cruise, which I think ought to be called Super Duper Cruise. I'm telling you. I told the guy 3 times.
It's lobby for it, but I know that's what I'm going to start calling.
They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay me. They don't want to pay me.
Licensing. Yeah, that's what it is.
There we go. That must be it. All right. We have some people asking about time to add AC to maybe your classic cars, and I know there's a lot of kits out there, but folks, before you add AC to your classic car, you're going to have to insulate the firewall and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good thought. The other thing is on some of these old classic cars, you have to figure out where you're going to put the vents, how you're going to do it so it looks nice, right? Are you going to cut some holes in the dash? Are you going to did it have a heater to start with? There are all different things you got to think about before you decide which route you want to go.
But I remember, like back in the 60s, the AC was just under dash add-on Frigidaire, Frigidaire,
right?
It was just vents bolted under the dash. You had to move your 8-track recorder, player, moving that 8-track out of the way, and then you mount it underneath there, and they worked great.
They did. And I think, though, there's a lot of companies that are out there now, like instead of trying to find an old AC.
No way.
I would definitely go with a new manufactured one, right?
Yeah. Well, you find an old one, it's going to be set up for R12, and you can't find that anyway. All the old piping and everything else is going to be crap. The old compressors were old Tecumsehs, which are not going to work. So you need to get the new style scroll compressors, which don't. The old compressors, man, they used to pull 6 or 8, 10 horsepower. Now they pull like 2. They don't pull any horsepower. They work better. They're set up for R134, and so they'll work much better. You have electric fans you can add to them now. So it's so much cleaner the way it works. It's so much better. You'd have to replace all the hoses and wiring harness anyway. So just go to Classic Air. There's several companies that make AC systems for them, and they just bolt right on there. I mean, it's so easy. Now, there are some things like when you get to like 69 or 70, 71 F-150 or F-100 and those kind of stuff, or the C10 Chevys or the Camaros or Mustangs, stuff like that. A lot of them have the vents ready there. They go into some of the regular vents, but
right. It's more at the older cars, especially the 30s, 40s ones. Where you sometimes have to figure it out. I see people build out these little boxes right under the dash. Yeah. But you do bring up a really good point that I never thought about, and that's if you are planning on doing AC on a car that you're restoring, you might be doing body work, something like Dynamat or some type of interior insulation. If you're already going to go through the effort to do the AC, the insulation is just going to help you stay cool, whether the AC be on or off. A lot of times, the older cars, it's just that steel roof, and then there's some headliner, and that's all that's keeping the heat from transferring into your car.
The reason I say that is because I remember my 58 F100, and then I know my 46 Willis I have all kinds of holes in the firewall where stuff used to go and things like that, and all kinds of hot air comes in. I mean, I was driving my Jeep the other day. I was like, God dang, because it was 80, and I'm going, man, it's hot on my feet or hot on this. I don't remember it, and I realized that there's some places coming around, the little spots around the linkage for the throttle and things like that. And I'm thinking like the hole's 1 inch and the little throttle rod's like a 1/4 inch, or the hole may be 2 inches and the throttle rod's a 1/4 inch. All this hot air comes through there, and all this hot air is coming through all these spots. And I'm thinking, if I ever wanted to air condition, which you don't, but if you ever wanted to, there were so many spots bringing in hot air, I'd have to sit there and kind of seal everything up with rubber bushings and things like that. I mean, there'd be so much work that I would do even before I put the AC in, because it's just, there's bleeding warm air. A friend of mine's got a Cobra kit car. Same thing. He said there's so much heat coming in off the headers and things like that. If I had an AC, it would be overwhelmed by the heat coming in. So a lot of that, folks, you may decide that I want an AC, but first of all, you got to get some of the heat from the engine compartment away from the passenger compartment. And that's part of that is like headers and things like that. I mean, my friend Andy's Cobra puts out tons of heat from the headers, not the side pipes, but just the headers. Because there are a lot of people that have headers that'll go near your starter. And then all of a sudden when he drives it for a few minutes, the starter is so hot that it won't start after it takes a while to cool down. So you've got to shield these things. So there's a lot of things. You may not even need AC. It may not be all that bad if you get rid of the heat out of the engine.
That is a good point. The other thing is just trying to figure out a way that you can scoop and funnel air through the car. Because I've been in some classic cars that, have really good wing windows set up and the air exits out the back and it's not too hot even in the summertime. But there are definitely some of those cars like, a Bel Air for say, especially if it's black with that big roof and AC is very warranted in a car like that.
A lot of the Fords and Chevys had a vent you could pull out on the driver's side and the passenger side on the down
get your legs.
Floorboard. Yeah, bite your legs, and it would pop out to the side and bring all this cool air and hit your legs and everything. It was great, and because
when you're moving,
those cars were built for no AC, and they worked really well, and people lived without AC. And we did here in Texas, and it was pretty. It was okay once you were moving, and the wing vents worked really well. And you're just like, okay, if I can just be rolling 5 miles an hour, I didn't sweat to death. You know what I mean? Now, it's when I'm stopped, it was no fun.
I'm blanking on the name right now, but you see them at the Volkswagen shows sometimes. They're like a swamp cooler that hangs off the window, and you put ice into it, and then it funnels the air through the ice and then into the passenger side window. I always thought that was a fun accessory. You don't see it very often. How often are you using AC? It's just kind of cool.
That works great in your area, but when here in the humidity, it doesn't help at all.
Oh, interesting. Wouldn't have even thought of that.
If low humidity area, swamp coolers and things that work great, but down here where it's high humidity, it doesn't make any difference at all. I know. Bummer. It does bring mold. Yeah.
There are plenty of kits that are available if you're looking to do AC on your car. It's one of those things you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Nope. Because it is a decent amount of work to get it all to work correctly. You got to incorporate it in your belt system and everything.
Yeah. But you can do it yourself. It's not that hard.
You can do it yourself. Yeah. It's just, I would go with a kit. I wouldn't try and piece it out.
No way. But the kits work really well. They're priced, reasonably, and they take up very little horsepower. And they bolt right on. They don't look bad. You don't notice them, and I think it'll increase the value of your vehicle dramatically.
Now, is this something, if you do add a kit, that you have to worry about if your car, I wouldn't say if your car overheats, but if your car is running hot, is this kit going to add a little bit extra, what do you want to call it, weight to your engine, a little bit extra wear?
No, it won't add any wear or anything like that, but normally they'll come with an extra fan, so it actually should not make the engine run any hotter. So I think
I guess that's what I was trying to verbalize.
It'll run at the same temperature. It should be great. As far as taking horsepower, they take a lot less horsepower than the original ACs did, and I think these new ones don't pull much horsepower at all, and they cool so much better than the original ones and things like that. Less vibration. They're just awesome. So I think you'll be way better off. And like I said, they're priced decently. So there's absolutely, take some of the stock AC stuff away and put this in there because they're awesome. So I've had nothing but good luck with them. So there you go.
Yeah. There you go. It's one of those things you think you don't need an AC until you're
in a small town of Elmira, New York. A boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Question: When you walk into the boardrooms of the most successful companies here in Ohio, who do you meet? Answer: men and women who played high school sports. Education-based high school sports give us more than athletes we can root for. They give us leaders we can depend on. Question: so where will we find tomorrow's leaders? Answer: high school sports.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
You're listening to Western Reserve Radio at westernreserveradio.com on the Live 365 network and the Live 365 app.
Hey, as always, on behalf of Jeremy Birnbaumer, producer Sean Mapes, and myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us today on the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network. I'm Mike Herzing. He's Jeremy Birnbaum. We all want you to have a great week. Talk to you next week.
Now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code CAR for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code CAR for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code CAR.
Did you know you can go to a trade school college that has you learning as an apprentice in a real radio station, culinary kitchen, film studio, or in a recording studio? Stay out of debt and out of a boring college classroom and learn on the job in the real world. The Radio Connection puts you in a real radio station. The Recording Connection trains you in a real recording studio. The Film Connection has you learning under a real filmmaker. And CASA has you learning one-on-one in a real restaurant. It's your life. Amplify it now and learn as an apprentice in a unique way to get a career as a broadcaster, podcaster, chef, music producer, or filmmaker. Just visit one of our sites, radioconnection.com, recordingconnection.com, filmconnection.com, or casaschools.com. Or call 1-865-413-5724. That's 1-865-413-5724.
Wake up call! The Spice Girls, including Victoria Beckham, set to reunite for King Charles III's coronation.
Oh, why not? If you're King Charles, that's who you get. Majesty, who do you want to perform at your coronation?
Get the Spice Girls together. I'd like to have them perform at the ceremony if you can.
Charles was kind of a playmaker.
It's good to be the king.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 9 to noon Eastern.
First Name Sports with Greg Frank.
If Lamar was healthy and just decided we're too close to the end of the season, I'm not playing. On a team that probably would have been a Super Bowl contender, maybe that legitimately turned some teams off. It's kind of screwed up. How it all would have shaken out with a healthy Lamar, we'll never know. But if you're one of those teams that was kicking the tires on Lamar Jackson and then you saw that and you were put off by it, I can kind of get it. It's easy to sit here and villainize the Ravens for the way they handled it the last couple of years, but now the Ravens are basically daring somebody else to give him the money that he wants. If no other team steps up to the table here, then the Ravens can say, see, we weren't asking for below your market value. The market just spoke to you. But at the end of the day, we are kind of throwing our fishing rod into the sea and hoping that there's a bite here as to why we are still in this guessing game with Lamar Jackson.
First Name Sports, weekday afternoons from 2 to 4 Eastern.
Sports Kings with Mean Gene.
Let's talk about another quarterback. Every year we go through this dog and pony show with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I've had enough. He's not going to go away at 39 years old. I wish he would just retire and just stay in that little black hole, wherever darkness he was in. So I'm just not a fan of Aaron Rodgers. At one time I was, though. But I have had enough. Enough is enough.
Sports Kings, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 Eastern.
Hi, it's Mark Means, host of By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take one.
Behold,
the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Mill Creek Golf Course is the host venue for the AJGA PGA Hope Program, 8 high school teams, and 2 collegiate teams. Mill Creek Golf Course is your Callaway certified golf club fitting facility. It was named the PGA of America's National Merchandiser of the Year for a public facility 2022. Book your tee time at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
It's time to kick back and listen to the sports page with your host, Pat Lucia, right here on Western Reserve Radio. You can call the show at 330-707-4202 and tell everyone what's on your mind in the wonderful world of sports. Now, here's your host, Pat Lucia.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia. 330-707-4202. Get in and talk sports. Talk about it every Saturday morning here on Western Reserve Radio, and the show is the Saturday morning sports page. Dave Clark is on his way in here. We will have to talk about the NFL, the quarterback situation, still kind of evolving, waiting for the Green Bay Packers and New York Jets to figure out the compensation for Aaron Rodgers. Not sure if the Green Bay Packers are holding hostage the Jets. They just have to sit down and get this worked out. I know there's all types of situations where the Packers can hold off on this trade until actually September 1st, which would be an ultimate disaster. I'm wondering if Roger Goodell will decide to wake up from his nap and stick his head in and say, okay, guys, get it done. The league looks bad. We're talking about, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, definitely a Hall of Famer. And here the Green Bay Packers and I don't know if they're holding the Jets hostage over the compensation. Allegedly, or speculation is, the Green Bay Packers want a number 1 or a first-round pick, and obviously the Jets maybe don't want to give that up. I can't figure out why they can't get together and put this thing to bed. And Aaron Rodgers should be officially will be a New York Jet. He's not a New York Jet, obviously, until he or the Jets figure out a compensation. The Packers and the Jets figure out the compensation. Now, we got to get to the college basketball, too. We'll talk a little bit NBA basketball. The playoff picture is always really interesting in the NBA, especially out in the West, where the teams are basically like sardines in a can. They're so tight. They're literally a game apart from one another. And some team goes on a winning streak. They could go from the 10th spot to the 4th spot. That's how close things are in the NBA playoff picture out in the West. East is pretty much the same thing. Obviously, the NBA is about a month from their playoffs starting, so these games get really interesting, but they have a tendency to take a back seat right now to college basketball. And obviously, if you did not hear the news last night, um, this is the second time a number one seed went down. Yes. Why did you think that here the Purdue Boilermakers lost? Yes, to this school maybe a lot of people have not heard of, but if you watch college basketball, you know who they are. Fairleigh Dickinson out of New Jersey upset the number one Purdue Boilermakers, and now that is the second time a number one seed lost to the proverbial 16th seed. So the last time it happened was 2017 when Virginia, the number one Virginia Cavaliers, lost to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County 16th seed. And that, again, was happened in 2017. So we have a number one seed go down last night for the second time in tournament history. And it happened to be the Purdue Boilermakers that looked like world beaters in the Big Ten tournament. They won the Big Ten conference during the regular season and actually went through the Big Ten tournament and had a very close win against Penn State Nittany Lions. And they looked like, well, they were definitely looking at Purdue. You thought they could probably easily get to the Final Four. And as you always say with Big Ten, the Big Ten always looks great during the regular season, but then they get into the NCAA tournament and they have a tendency to proverbial stub their toe. And that's what obviously the Purdue Boilermakers did last night, losing to the number 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson out of New Jersey. So the tournament picture in college basketball will always get interesting. Also, another big upset, though, that this happened on Thursday. It was the Arizona Wildcats, who basically proved to us one thing in this tournament: they do absolutely nothing. This team Arizona, to me, I just shake my head because it always seems to me that every time you turn around with Arizona, they've got great players, a great team. They look like they're going to be world beaters here, and always everybody gets their brackets out. And I know they always pick Arizona. I think Jay Billis had Arizona winning the tournament. They looked impressive winning their conference tournament against UCLA, and obviously the only drawback was they, in their infamous wisdom, Arizona goes out and lays with the proverbial egg, another number high seed, number 2 seed, getting basically beat. Again, I couldn't see this one coming, and we'll see how this plays out. So we have the number 1 seed Purdue basically losing to Fairleigh Dickinson last night. Arizona getting beat the week before, the day before. So now we've got the 1 seed and a 2 seed out of the tournament. So we'll see how this plays out pretty much moving forward. We'll get it more into the matchups as we motor on. We've got the NFL. We'll get to Lamar Jackson. Where do we think he's going to potentially end up? Team, you're running out. I just want to get to the score. Arizona lost to Princeton 59-55. So that was the first upset. And then obviously that was the upset we had to go through on Thursday. And then as I talked, Fairleigh Dickinson beat number 1 Purdue Friday night. So 2 big top seeds, Purdue being the number 1 seed and Arizona being the number 2 seed. So if people get into their brackets like they like to, they might be broken. If you had Purdue and Arizona getting into your Final Four, those sides of your bracket are pretty much done. So that's what we have going on, especially college basketball. This is probably the best time of the year for college basketball. Dave Clark here with me this morning, and as we talk, we've got to get to the NFL. Talked a little bit about Aaron Rodgers waiting on the compensation package. Other news out there, Jimmy Garoppolo did sign his contract with the Raiders. I know he postponed that for a day, and that kind of fueled a little speculation that maybe something was going on there with the Raiders and Jimmy G, and some folks were speculating were the Raiders going to jump in with the Aaron Rodgers situation, because Aaron Rodgers is technically not a New York Jet and will not be a New York Jet until they actually figure out compensation, agree on it, and actually make the trade. Rodgers has come out, says he wants to play for the Jets. He's excited to play for the Jets. And the Packers have moved on from Aaron Rodgers. At least that's what they tell us. And so now we're sitting on the now one caller had called in to one of the talk shows, Mad Dog Russo, and was saying that the cap hit, if Green Bay waits till after June 1st, that the cap hit they would get, which I believe is $40 million, they could spread that over 2 years. So there's some kind of situation here potentially where Green Bay could just wait, and then they have a little flexibility with the cap hit they're going to get. So if that's the case, then we could probably be sitting here for the next 2 to 3 months waiting, or they could announce the trade, but just not sign the papers and do it until after June 1st, which that might be the case too. They may, announce the trade and say, we've got the compensation. However, if you're talking draft picks, they're going to want to make the trade. If they're going to get if the Jets do decide to give the Packers the first round pick, is what we're told is on the table, then they want to get that draft done before the draft, because the Jets will basically, unless the Jets will draft, they will basically draft the Packers pick and then say, okay, June 1st, he's yours.
Right.
So maybe there's a way around that with that cap. If they want to consummate the trade after June 1st, they could go through all the motions and gyrations, but just don't sign the paperwork. If it's draft picks, then basically the Packers would draft for draft that first round pick, which I think is an 11. It's a mid round. I have to look it up where the New York Jets will draft in the first round this year.
Yeah.
Could they potentially kind of work around it that way so the Packers can take that cap hit and spread it over 2 years? Since I believe they were saying the cap hit was about $40 million range.
Yeah, they're going to want to cut that down for sure.
So they want to use 2 years.
Yeah, and that would really be beneficial to them.
So maybe they're playing accounting numbers here.
Oh, I know that's going on.
But that's all that's going on.
Yep, with all these teams.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is all about now, the numbers. And people getting under the cap and staying there. You're going to see more people being cut as they see things get closer, because they don't want to be over. So, but I think that the date was, Thursday. They had to be under a certain
this
amount.
Past Thursday, they had to be under a certain, was the date they needed to be under the cap number, whatever that was.
Right. So, a fluctuation of these rosters is going to go on. You see a lot of big names being traded and released, and, I remember the Eagles when they released Darius Slay. I figured they would re-sign him, but I didn't know. I said, hey, especially when he left the tweet to say, well, thank everybody in Philadelphia. Let's see what my next journey is. Well, that sounded like a guy that's going to another team, but the very next, I think it was a day or two after they re-signed him, and that way to get some salary cap release. It's really, he still gets his money plus a little bit more, but it's spread it out. So, they got so many creative ways they do things, but that's what they have to do. That's what it's all about right now.
When we look at the Lamar Jackson situation here, Dave Clark, evidently there doesn't seem to be a lot of interested teams, at least that we know of. Washington signed Jacoby Brissett. we were speculating that maybe Washington would be in the sweepstakes for Lamar Jackson. And then after we're thinking that, they go out and get Jacoby Brissett. Tampa Bay signed Baker Mayfield to a one-year deal. So there's speculation out there. Maybe the Indianapolis Colts would want him, but they said, well, no. They have, the 4th pick in this draft. They're probably going to draft one of these quarterbacks.
Right.
So when you start to go down the list here of teams, who are their quarterbacks. So Washington Commanders just signed Jacoby Brissett. So are we led to believe that they're going to roll into the season with Jacoby Brissett and Howell as their quarterbacks? Howell's going to be the rookie or second-year guy. And then maybe they do Jacoby Brissett will start, and they'll kind of let Howell come in 4th, 5th, 6th game and work him in that way. Or do they start Howell and see how he goes with Jacoby Brissett in the fold, sort of to speak, just in case? So I guess the question's really coming down to, with Lamar Jackson, is there seems to be they're running out of teams here.
Yeah, I still don't take those teams off the board because I don't know if Sam Howell is completely ready. He could be the guy though, and Brissett is not the guy that normally they're going to take unless they were if they're grooming Sam Howell, but he's a perfect guy for that. He'll do a solid job. He gets better and better. Even you see him, even as I'd be comfortable with Brissett, but does that just close the door? I don't think so, because the contract wasn't big. You also got Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield. His wasn't big.
No, they're just one-year deal with Baker.
And all those things let me know that they're still open to conversation. And if something materialized that can get done, I guarantee you they'll do it. Either one of those teams. I don't think that's off the market, and I definitely don't think that with the enemy coming in as the offensive coordinator, would he rather have Brissett or Lamar Jackson? There's no doubt which one he's going to want to have under center, because they can do so many things. But it all depends on the numbers and what they can come up. I just think the thing that scares them away, that they're wondering about this the contract, and they got to figure out a way to get that contract. I think somebody could pay it, but they got to find out a creative way to do it, so it doesn't just blow their team where they're in, as they say, cap hell for 3 to 4 years. That's not going to help any team. So I don't take them off the board at all, either one of those teams.
Do you think, I've been hearing a lot of this, do you think if Lamar Jackson had an agent, this would have been done?
Maybe so. Maybe so, but the thing about it, he's not just doing it all on his own. He is getting advice.
He's getting advice, I guess,
from guys that are
right.
Those type of attorneys that do that. He's getting advice. An agent get in there and get that job done, but sometimes that doesn't benefit the player. The agent. Not
Sometimes
necessarily.
I think the agents can get with the NFL and say, okay, and there are certain agents that really know how to negotiate free contracts, quarterback contracts, because they're so big. But get with the team and then get it where Lamar Jackson's looking for a number, and the agents can get creative with the team to get to the number with bonuses, incentives, upfront money, over a period of time, and they play with these numbers. Almost it's you need an accounting degree and then some to figure this out.
Right.
But sometimes the agents can get with the team, get very creative, and actually get Lamar Jackson pretty much the money he wants. Now, it may not be like a total guaranteed contract, but the
Yeah.
bottom line money and the guaranteed money can be close to what, he needs or what he wants.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm wondering if he had that agent, he might be signed. I know some of the experts out there believe that. It's not
Yeah.
100%, but
Yeah.
maybe that's a possibility. And one other analyst said, if he had an agent, he actually would have been signed before Deshaun Watson, that the guy could have had the contract hammered out, and a real good contract hammered out with the team before the Deshaun Watson thing ever came to light. But that he kind of faulted the Baltimore Ravens for kind of sitting on it too.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a combination of Lamar not having the agent or an aggressive agent pushing Baltimore. And maybe that's what Baltimore needed, was somebody pushing them way back then.
Yeah.
Never happened. So now we're in the situation where he's under the franchise tag. I'm surprised. I think what hurts Lamar Jackson is the fact that he's been injured the last 2 years. I think that if Lamar Jackson played, especially this last year, if he would have played the entire season, got them into the playoffs, won a game maybe in the playoffs, then and wasn't hurt this year like he was last year, I would think there would be more teams maybe interested in looking at the kind of his contract demands, maybe looking to see, okay, let's give him close to that guaranteed money that he wants. But I just think the fact is that he's been hurt those last 2 years. They're looking at it and they're like saying, well, wait a minute. Now that he's got he was good in the beginning of his rookie. I mean, it was the MVP. That was years ago. But it's like, unfortunately, as we've talked on this show many times, it's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
And they're looking at that saying, I don't know if I want to give a guy that's basically missed 10 games.
Yeah. I mean, that's all they can say, because they really can't say, use the old scenario or say whatever you done, because before he was injured, both seasons, he was one of the leading candidates for MVP. He's playing way up the par.
Right.
So all they could just use is the injury factor. They're going to they would use that even on the agent too, but an agent probably would get it done.
Right.
But is all the time, just because they get it done, they'll call it a great contract. But is it a great contract?
Well,
It's a lot of times it's not.
Daniel Jones' contract is a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
Geno Smith is really a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
When you break, I mean, the problem we always have is what gets reported, but what's the actual reality of, especially in the NFL contracts, because they're not guaranteed contracts for the most part, and they play with that money on these backload, front load, where basketball is really easy because the NBA players there's really no negotiation really in the NBA contracts. I mean, there is a little, but as a rule of thumb, there's not. That money's in there. It is what it is based on how many years and what the team has. Can they get them in under the cap? The negotiation at NBA, to me, those contracts are set. Where football, these contracts are so convoluted with guarantees, incentives, upfront money, guaranteed money, backloaded. What they're doing with the money, because they dance around the salary cap in the NBA, in the NFL, like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it seems like they do that more than any other sport.
Yeah. I mean, they do. I mean, that's because it's just a little different. And it's a different game. So it's a lot of things going to be put in there a lot differently than where you would have baseball or basketball. But, like I said, I think it would be signed, but I do fault Baltimore and would, Lamar being reluctant, because when you see what he's put together in those first 3 years, it seemed like they would have signed him in the 4th. They wouldn't even went to the 5th year. He would already been extended. And they didn't, and I thought they were thinking, well, we better not extend him because he does run a lot. He may get hurt. Well, you can't do that. You can't play scared. If that's going to be your quarterback, then go ahead and make him your quarterback. Once you don't, now you got that player, and anybody else is thinking, how much do you really want me here as your franchise quarterback.
Right.
I'm here as long as I'm healthy, but soon something happened, out the door. And that's with most of them, but especially with him and his skill set. So, you know, I know it's reluctant, but I agree with something you said a few weeks back. There's somebody out there, and they're trying to find out if it's some way to get him under that catch. It's tough in the NFL to get guys in there. Some teams, I bet you it is teams that say, yep, I can get him under the cap. But the problem is, does it put me in, as I said, cap hell next season or a season after? These guys don't look for just now. They do have to look for down the road, because if they don't, and they bank it all on this one season and you don't get it, then all of them is out of the job that's doing this. So they got to look for the future to make sure this team can stay, or whatever team he's with, stay together and have most of their pieces there. But, you know, all the teams move guys around because of the cap. But his would be a major cap hit. So,
well, here's the other thing that
they need to go ahead and do something.
What I can't sometimes figure out. Deshaun Watson coming into this season. I just got this. I read. You probably heard that.
With his contract amounts,
the contract was restructured.
Mm-hmm. It's
so
super high these last few years. It's in the 60s.
It said here, according to the NFL, the Browns have restructured Watson's massive and fully guaranteed 6-year contract of $230 million to give themselves more cap space for the upcoming season. Nearly $36 million in cap space is what they were able to create by restructuring Deshaun Watson's contract. So he signed the fully guaranteed, but this is what I sometimes don't understand. Like, all right, it's fully guaranteed. Quote, they restructure it. Okay, restructure it. Move the money around. Now we have $36 million to go sign players because we, quote, restructured the contract of the fully guaranteed $230.
Right.
So as to your point, have they restructured it to the point where they're putting it at the back end of the contract, we assume?
Yeah, well, they showed it. I already seen it, 63.9.
Right.
For the next 3 years after this season.
Okay.
The contract would be $63.9 million a season.
That's how it's going to look at on the books.
And that's going to really put them where they might have to get rid of people like Chubb and this and that. But Andrew Berry said he wasn't concerned with that. But what he could do is next year, especially if Deshaun Watson has a very good season, is to try to extend them 2 more years.
Right.
Add $30 million to it. Now you spread over a 5-year period, and now it goes down to like 48 million. You know, and it'd be 50 million. It'll be really where the market is anyway.
Right.
So they'll be okay. So I know that's what they got. It's a lot of things they banking on. Great season.
So if he has a great season, what they could ultimately do is bring him in and say, okay, Deshaun, we're going to extend you 2 more years at this number, which will then give you, we'll able to spread out the money longer and get you down on the books to be about a $48 million contract, where reality is that's where a lot of these NFL quarterbacks are going anywhere. Like, we talked about Joe Burrow. What will he do? Justin Herbert's contract. These are all contracts coming up. What the Bengals are going to do with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and how they're going to work that out with Joe Burrow. Can they keep those 3 players, or do they have to let go of somebody? So there's our music. First quarter of the show is in the books. We'll come back on the second quarter of the Saturday Morning Sports Page right after this on Western Reserve Radio.
Sandrock Concrete specializes in all types of concrete, driveways, sidewalks, basements, and garages. We also do stamp-colored concrete in many different designs. We do interior and exterior stonework, regular brick and block work. Sandrock Concrete is fully insured. Call Jerry Sandrock at 330-506-0013 for an estimate. Also find them on Facebook at Sandrock Concrete LLC. Sandrock Concrete, where you deal with the owner all the time.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Located in Applewood Estates in Boardman Township, the Applewood Swim and Tennis Club offers a pleasant family environment. Choose a membership that meets your needs and enjoy a relaxing venue that includes not only swimming for the family, but also youth activities such as competitive swimming, tennis, and more. Enjoy the friendly atmosphere all summer long with the staff and members of the Applewood Swim and Tennis Club. For more information, go to applewoodswimandtennis.com or call 330-953-2833.
Let's be real. The odds of a high school athlete getting a college scholarship and making it to the pros are pretty slim. Don't get me wrong, it's okay to dream of becoming a pro athlete, even a famous one. But that's not why I play. My reason why? I love the competition.
My reason why is community.
My reason why is leadership.
My reason why is to challenge myself.
My reason why is love for the game.
And hey, if we don't make it to the pros or onto the cover of Sports Illustrated, that's okay, because there's every reason to believe we'll excel in something even bigger than sports. We'll excel in life.
There are lots of great reasons to play high school sports. Tell us your reason using the hashtag #MyReasonWhy.
This message presented by the NFHS and the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, 330-707-4202. Get in and talk sports. Western Reserve Radio is the station you're listening to. And the show is the Saturday morning sports page every Saturday morning from 9 to 11. So Dave Clark, getting into the whole situation with the Jets, Rodgers, we talked about this a little off air, but this is what I thought yesterday when the Packers seemed to be holding the Jets hostage. It's kind of how it's been reported about the compensation. Evidently, we're told that it's over a first-round pick. Ravens want the first-round pick, and the Jets don't want to give them their first-round pick. Is Rodgers worth that? Well, I guess that's up for debate. He's 39 years old, coming off a not a great season, and for him, kind of a mediocre season for him. Question is, has he lost his fastball because of his age? Is this a trend where, we've seen this with quarterbacks, older quarterbacks that lose it, like Peyton Manning, they lose it like off the charts, lose it like fall off a table. They're just not the same quarterback they were. There's, I guess, some speculation and concern for that. But what is it if the Jets get tired of the Packers getting on the phone and going to the Ravens and calling up Lamar Jackson and say, okay, if we're going to give up a first round and maybe a second round for Rodgers, maybe we consider giving up 2 first rounds to get Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And we're paying Rodgers whatever that $50 million a year. Well, let's sit down with Lamar Jackson and hammer out a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maybe we work out a sign and trade with Baltimore where we can give Baltimore maybe not 2 first rounds, but a first round, a second round, and another second round later on. But I mean, if you're the Jets, maybe you think, hey, you know,
they may be thinking that too. I mean, we don't know, but I wouldn't think that that's not off the table. I think you can't just. I mean, I'm sure you put your, as they say, the eggs in the basket for Rodgers because that's what you've been working
right.
towards. But after a while, when you get tired, it's not that there's always a plan B, C, D, and everything else.
Right.
So normally that's what it is. Most people that are smart and in that position, they're going to do that. So I can see sliding right to Lamar and seeing what they can work out since he's sitting out there like that. And he is open now because of how that non-exclusive tag is to negotiate with other teams.
Right.
So they can come in, they can swoop right in.
Right.
And they really could put the pressure on the Jets can flip this pressure
on the Packers
and put it on the Packers. Hey, we'll go after Lamar, and it's a good chance we'll get him. And if they call their bluff, just go ahead and get Lamar. It's a guy that's going to be there. I mean, do I think the Rodgers can still play? Yeah. Because what I looked at, I don't really worry about the arm strength that much because I seen him when the hand was feeling good enough. He was firing it like he always did. When you seen it start to bother or you get a hit in the game, you start seeing him ball sailing on him, all kinds of stuff going on. Very seldom he was short, but it was sail on him. You see it be inaccurate. And he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks that we done seen over a span like that. So that's the things I've seen. I think if he's healthy all the way that hand, I don't think that's going to be a problem right now. So I think he's got a few more years in him if he wants to play. That's the key. How much does he want to play? Sometimes you get rejuvenated going to a new place, and it rejuvenates you enough to want to play 2-3 more years. And you got to hope that, as far as the Jets is concerned, because if you're giving up that kind of compensation, you want to at least have him 2 to 3 years if you possibly can, not just one season.
No, you're right. If you're going to, and that's where I think the sticking point could be is the Jets are thinking Rodgers could retire after 1 year.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't play that well, or he becomes, and for Rodgers, you don't know because he's kind of he's the type of guy that does he's kind of his own deal.
Right.
He could say after 1 year, all right, this is, I'm done.
Yeah.
I played a year. I played okay. Maybe we make the playoffs, but I'm tired. My body, I'm 40 years old now.
Yeah.
And
never know.
I want out. I'm going to retire. So
it's all what that desire is, what he's feeling.
Right. And, if he decides after a year he wants out, then the Jets are now back to looking for a quarterback.
Yep.
So, where if they would go out and sign a Lamar Jackson, then you solve your problem. At least now he's your guy.
Right.
Sign him to the 5-year deal, work out the contract, $230 or whatever you could get him for guaranteed. I know other owners are whining and complaining about resetting the market. Get over it.
Yep.
That's, the players aren't upset.
No.
Deshaun Watson signed a guaranteed contract at $230.
No. Because he opens it up for them all.
Right.
So
let's hit the phones. You're on the Sports Page. What's up?
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Dave. How you guys doing?
Hey, Irish Mike. What's going on?
Just running a million errands this morning. It is what it is on a Saturday, but it's a beautiful day to be running errands.
Yeah, you got the sun. A little cool, but not bad. It's great.
Yes. Yes, sir. Hey, guys, a bunch of different topics here this morning, but, I guess, I was watching some of the ball games last night, and I guess over the last few years, guys, especially the last 3 or 4 years, I found myself getting less and less of the tournament, maybe because I don't really watch a whole lot of college basketball in the regular season anymore because I think the season's way too long. And, you know what I mean? I feel like I had an argument with a friend that's been going on for years and years, specifically with college basketball and the NBA, that the regular seasons have been so watered down that people think less and less of it. Now, we argue more about pro basketball. He says all these Cavs games are really important, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, if you get eliminated in the first or second round, nobody cares what you did in the regular season from November to April. They just don't care. And And I texted him last night after Purdue lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. And I said, do you think Purdue fans care that they won the Big Ten this year?
No.
You think they care right now?
No.
No.
No. They look world
They don't
beaters.
care what.
No.
They don't care about the game. God, Dave, they don't care about the games they won in November, December, January.
No.
They could care less about that right now. They could care less.
Right. I mean, you won the Big Ten in the regular season, then you played in the Big Ten tournament, and you had a couple tough games in there, but you beat Penn State on a real knockdown, drag-out fight on Sunday. Then you show up Friday ready to, not ready to play, and the number 16 seed upsets you. But again, you look at that and you say to yourself, right. I mean, I'm sure Purdue would have rather lost to, say, Ohio State and got knocked out of the Big Ten tournament early and went a lot farther in the end on this tournament that really counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that conference tournament really means nothing. It's a moneymaker for the Big Ten and TV, but it doesn't do anything for your school. It doesn't.
I had a friend who went to the Big Ten conference tournament this year in Indianapolis. He's a big Ohio State guy, Ohio State football and basketball. He texted me last Friday at the end of the Michigan State-Ohio State game. He was sitting in a section with Michigan State fans, and he was ripping on them. He was mad at them because they said at the end of the game, his parent, Michigan State was going to lose the ball game.
Yeah.
Well, in reality, this game meant a whole lot more to Ohio State than it did to us.
Sure it did.
Right.
And he was mad about that comment because he thought, they're making excuses because they lost. No, they're dealing with reality.
Well, and then to your point, Michigan State won. They beat USC yesterday 72-62.
Yeah.
So do you think Purdue would rather have lost, say, to Ohio State, but won last night against Fairleigh Dickinson and moved on? No, I mean, I'm sure they would have traded any loss in that Big Ten tournament and been out of the tournament. Who cares about the trophy? If that meant they were out and maybe could rest 2 more days, that's the other people are critical sometimes of these conference tournaments, is because it takes a lot of the gas out of the team, and by the team rolls into the NCAA tournament, they don't have any legs left.
Correct.
And Purdue obviously looked like they didn't play a very good game last night.
Yeah.
And
you can't do that against Fairleigh. They have done this before,
right? and then you get these seeds like this Fairleigh Dickinson. These are all older guys, 4 seniors, and I mean, and they've played together a little bit longer, and
they'll take you down.
They'll take you down, and that's exactly what you saw last night. Is and sometimes you could look at some of the seeds and question whether or not they're seeded right. Well, what was the deal with Iowa? I kept hearing Texas A&M, how terrible they were, a 7 seed. They should have been a higher seed. They were a much better team. Penn State, they didn't evidently show up, and Penn State rolled them, and that game was over at halftime. I mean,
I don't know that guy. I don't. I followed a little, Pat, because Mike Bray stepped down from Notre Dame a couple months back, and the season ends, but all the rumors are that the Penn State head coach, I don't know the gentleman's name, is from Indiana, and he's the leading candidate to become the new head coach at Notre Dame after their season ends at Penn State. So something to follow along.
Okay.
But he's born and raised in Indiana. He's an Indiana guy, and Penn State's losing a lot after this year, so that he might be going to South Bend and place Mike Bray at Notre Dame. I think his name's Shrewsbury.
Yeah,
Shrewsbury,
it's Micah Shrewsbury. He's the coach. You're right. He's from Indiana. He's 46 years old. He was from Indianapolis, Indiana. That's where he was born. And, you could see when you're watching Penn State, I've got a friend of mine that's a Penn State fan. His daughter went to Penn State. He lives out there in over outside of Newcastle. And I said to him, I had lunch with him yesterday, and I said, they better sign that Penn State coach up. They better go out and give him a big deal now, because there's going to be all those schools, top flight schools. This guy's on their number 1 list, because you could tell he's really a good coach.
Yeah,
I think at the Big Ten tournament, they asked me he's going to be back at Penn State next year, and he said, I really don't know. So, that's a coach answer, and that's an agent answer. Hey, if I am back, I want a whole hell of a lot more money.
No, you better pony up, because he was there 2021 is when he started, and this is his first head coaching job.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. He played for Hanover, his playing career. Then he just worked his way as an assistant as to your point.
He was at Purdue for years as assistant, I believe. He was the top assistant at Purdue for years.
3 years, to 2011 to 13. Then he was actually a Boston Celtic assistant for 7 years, 2013 to 19. He got a lot of NBA under his resume.
You know who he's friends with from Indianapolis? He's friends with Brad Stevens. When Brad Stevens got the head coaching job with the Celtics, he went with Brad Stevens to be his assistant. Remember Brad Stevens left Butler?
Yep.
Him and Brad Stevens are tight, so that's who he went to the Celtics with.
And then he ultimately went back to Purdue for a couple years as the assistant.
Yeah,
and then he went to Penn State 2021, March of 2021, he was named their head coach. So the point is, this guy right now, when you watch I watched Penn State. They played a great tournament, lost to Purdue in the final, but that was a close game. And then they ultimately showed up as an underdog against the greatest Texas A&M school of all time, according to some people.
Mm-hmm.
And they took them out to the woodshed, and that game was pretty much over at halftime. That became an ugly game, a mismatch from pretty much the get-go. Penn State just had more. I mean, they just dominated Texas A&M. I kept waiting for Texas A&M. I heard how great they were and how they got screwed by the seeding, and they just got absolutely taken to the woodshed. And so when you look at Penn State, if he goes far in the tournament, Penn State better get the checkbook out and sit him down and keep him.
Yeah.
Because because right now, I would say the way you're watching Penn State play, this guy's on a lot of people's number one list is we better get this guy in here, because obviously this guy's got a lot of NBA. And don't rule out the fact that there's some NBA teams looking at him.
Good point. Good point, because he's familiar with the league.
Yeah,
hey, this is the third year in a row, Pat. I think I heard this correct. Maybe you guys heard the same thing after the ball game last night, that this is the third year in a row that Purdue got eliminated by a double-digit seed in the NCAA tournament.
Might be.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to go look up. But you'd have to look at what they did
last year.
Last year too.
And then the year before. I can't remember, but I know last year they did too.
Because I mean, good point. That's something we could look up. But yeah, I mean, they just, again, they flat out did not show up. Yeah, they got beat last year. They were upset by St. Peter's, beat them.
Okay.
And St. Peter's happened to be
the 12th.
They were a 15th seed.
Okay.
So Purdue was evidently What?
Stay away from those small schools from New Jersey, right, Dave Clark?
Right.
Stay away from those small
They were
schools.
saying that.
Yeah,
I read the article in the New York Post. There was an article this morning. There's so much going on, but they were saying that. They said every last March Madness has been busted thanks to a New Jersey team. They've actually, Dickerson did it this year. St. Peter's evidently did it last year. Obviously this year, we talked early, Furman upset Virginia Thursday, and then Princeton pulled up the big upset on Thursday against Arizona, Arizona should just not go to the tournament any longer. They should just decline to go in, because every year they go, they lose. And they lose by usually a double-digit, lower seed.
They played, but I don't know what happened to them. They could not do anything for the last 5 or 6 minutes. And Princeton went on a 9-0 run.
Yeah.
And just took it to them. Unbelievable.
And I mean, it continues. Like if you're a Purdue fan, or maybe Purdue can hope for one thing. The year Virginia got upset by University of Maryland, Baltimore County, they came back the following year and won the national title. So if you're a Purdue Boilermaker fan, maybe the best thing that you can hope for is basically you can hopefully get, maybe you can come back next year and win it all, because that's what you have to hope for.
Yeah.
Because
it's just there's been so much emphasis on the NCAA tournament the last 35, 40 years, and its popularity on TV and people watching it, playing brackets everywhere online. Everybody plays a bracket, and it generates billions and millions of dollars. It also generates pressure to head coaches because, I'm sorry. People don't want to hear about November, December, January. If you're not advancing far in the NCAA tournament, we'll give you one or two mulligans. But after a while, if there's a track record of 4 or 5 years, like this coach at Texas A&M, I think he was at Marquette, then he went to Virginia Tech. Now he's been at Texas A&M the last 3 or 4 years. He moves around every 4 or 5 years because his tournament record's not very good.
Yeah, Buzz Peterson.
Yeah, he stays ahead of the posse, I call it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. One of those guys that does that.
Yeah.
Because his tournament record's not good.
Yeah, he's what is his name? Oh, Buzz Williams. Yeah, Buzz Williams. Like I said, Peterson. Buzz Williams is the coach. You're right. He moves around. He's kind of I don't know how you want to call it, a vagabond type of guy where he's constantly moving, a nomad where he's constantly moving around.
When Shaka Smart, now I know he's from that area and I think he went to school there. When Shaka Smart left Texas to go to Marquette, we all knew that Shaka Smart had one more year at Texas before they were going to let him go.
Right.
So he got out while the getting was good. He got a good job. He could go back home and make good money. And the reality is, he's off people's radar screen as far as the coach on the hot seat entering the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he knew it was, he knew the end. I think you're right. He obviously knew the end was coming in Texas because they have absolutely no patience at Texas. Even for their basketball coach, they have no patience.
Correct.
Right. They're worse with their football coach after, they usually want to fire him if they lose to Oklahoma. So even if they've just started the contract, they're on the hot seat if they lose to Oklahoma down there in Texas. But
that is a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at Purdue's unfortunate track record. Yeah, back in last year, Purdue made it to the Sweet 16. They beat Texas a second round, 81-71, but they got beat in the Sweet 16 by St. Peter's. And that was, I think, St. Peter's was the first 15th seed ever to make it to the Elite Eight. Mm-hmm. And they did that when they upset Purdue 67-64. So Purdue continues to kind of struggle in this tournament with seeds, with the lower seeds. And I'm just like looking at it and I can't, it's just amazing that they got beat last night after going through the Big Ten and then the Big Ten tournament to get upset by, Fairleigh Dickinson beating them. I mean, that just drives, and you saw all the people on the sideline. You're watching the game. The fans were just absolutely crushed. That game was played in Columbus.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah,
I mean, just my buddy was down there. And he said it was just a crazy atmosphere. What was going on down there. So it's it's just that's what people want. They want those bracket busting games. You want it as long as it doesn't ruin your bracket. That's the way I look at it.
You're right. It seems like it goes on quite a bit now, a lot. And that, for me, it's hard to. I mean, I watch them, but I know I'm not the same guy watching the tournament as I was maybe 6-7 years ago.
Correct.
I think because the players are not there, you don't establish a rapport of that team because those players are there maybe just one season. They move around now, especially with the portal. So it's just hard to really keep a team together, except those smaller teams who causes these upsets because they'll have 3-year guys or guys that's been there 4 years with the same school, and you just those things just don't happen no more. So it's not a lot of continuity, togetherness with those teams. So I think that's what caused the interest to wane a little bit from where it used to be.
Correct. I don't doubt that
No.
for 1 second. It's a crazy time.
No.
Hey, I'm going to call you guys right back. I have to run a quick errand. I'm
All
going to call you guys back after the top of the hour.
All right, man. Good deal.
Thank
Thanks.
you. I'll call you right back. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Irish Mike giving us kind of the rundown with basketball. But again, the big story, I think, I don't know, you have Purdue being obviously the top upset, but
Right.
then Arizona getting beat by Princeton on Thursday.
Boy.
And Virginia getting beat by Furman.
I know.
I think that was, they said that was Furman's first tournament in 43 years or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know
Something
our
crazy.
colleague Mark Means is probably
Mark
in
Means.
super depression with the
I
Arizona.
wonder if hopefully Mark's okay.
I was going to text her. I said, no, I better just.
Yeah, I was going to do that, but I wasn't going to.
Man, the first night, right? The first night, you're not expecting that at all, I'm sure.
No.
Wow.
Not.
I didn't expect that for sure.
No.
Arizona, I didn't see them a couple times this year, and they look pretty good.
And they won their conference tournament.
Yeah, they look
Going
pretty good
away.
in it too. And man,
Purdue did pretty much. Purdue did the same thing.
Yeah,
they mirrored one another. They went out, great seasons, both won their conference tournaments, and dominated well, and looked unbelievable last weekend in the conference tournament. Purdue had a tough game with Penn State, but where it's able to do away. But the team that I like is of all the teams right now, I was really impressed with Penn State. And I have been. Penn State's been playing really good ball. If you watch what they've done the last month or so, they're really playing good.
Right.
So if this coach could take them deep into the tournament, but you never know.
Yeah.
That's just like I'll give you an example. This was kind of funny. Mad Dog Russo goes on this big tirade Monday about how Rutgers got screwed not getting into the tournament. All the breakdown of, he gave a good, he had, I actually agreed with him. It was like Rutgers should have got in based on who they beat, on all that,
right.
all that documentation that he gave us. All right. So what happens to Rutgers in the first round of the NIT at home? Hofstra beats them.
Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't have did a lot of ranting, because what happens with teams like that, when they expecting an NCAA bid,
right,
and you don't get it, the motivation now in these times is not the same 40 years ago.
No.
NIT was just as big.
Right.
So people don't look at NIT. And they go through the motions. You can't, because these teams are happy to be in any tournament, and they'll go and take you out. That's exactly
what happened.
Yeah. You don't be ready to play. But I don't want to downplay Hofstra.
No.
Because if you're any sports, whatever sports you participate in, the bottom line is this: if you play that sport, you need to be ready for whenever it is. I hate the excuse, they were a little flat. I never understood how. I could understand you could be tired. I could be tired. But when a guy says you're flat, I never could understand that. I've been always excited to play any sport I was able to play when it was that day. I don't even care if I was banged up and hurt. If I was able to play, I was excited about playing. So flatness, I never understood that. How can a guy come out and just like, I don't feel like doing this? I don't get it. But that's always used as an excuse. But yeah, I know that was something, and they did. I seen that they lost to Hofstra. But for you to tell me what Mad Dog Russo was going off about, his argument went straight down the toilet.
So
after that.
funny. It's so funny. And then he actually had to come on like the day after that and said, yeah, I sat there and rant and raved about Rutgers not getting, why they didn't get in the NCAA tournament. And they got beat at home first round of NIT by Hofstra.
Right. At home, too.
At home. Saturday morning sports page, halftime. We'll come back after this quick timeout on Western Reserve Radio.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Come out to the 36 beautiful hole design course by Donald Ross, and golf lessons are available by calling the team shop at 330-740-7112. Don't forget about family fun nights on Friday and Saturday evenings, a family of 4 with cart for only $25. Or visit the Wick Recreation Area and the lighted par 3 course. Book your tee time today at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take 1.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, back for the second half of the show. 330-707-4202 if you want to get in and talk sports. We were kind of trying to figure out, my brackets are shot. I had Arizona, one of them in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I should have known better, but I don't know better. So. And then one other bracket, I had Purdue going far away. And I didn't see, Arizona's history always tells you they never do anything in that tournament.
Yeah.
History. Purdue, not so much.
Right.
Now, they had their problems, though, getting beat by the lower seeds. Last year, they were beaten in the Sweet 16 by St. Peter's from New Jersey. Maybe they don't want to play any teams from New Jersey moving forward.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not a good omen for them, Dave Clark.
Right. Just fall. Just don't play.
Don't play those teams.
Right.
But if you happen to be a Penn State fan, Penn State does play today or tonight, 7:45. They actually play Texas. That's going to be a really good game because I'm kind of like the Penn State bandwagon a little bit, but. I'd like to see Penn State do really good. And what I always like to do is this is what I would love to see happen. Because I'm get wired for chaos. What I would love to see happen, I'm going to go off strip, going back to Lamar Jackson. What I would really want to see happen, Dave Clark, I would love to see the New York Jets sign him to the contract.
Sign Lamar?
Yep. I would love to see Lamar Jackson in a Jet uniform, guaranteed contract, $270 million, all guaranteed. That's what I want to see. I want to see that. I want to see chaos.
I would love to see Lamar with the Jets. That would be something.
Saturday morning sports page.
Hi, Pat. Hi, Dave.
Hey, you're back. Yeah, we were.
Yes. My errand got ran. Yes.
Oh,
got my
good.
errand ran.
Good. You got it done quickly. Very good.
Oh, my wife's going to be doing MMA and things today. So.
Oh, great.
Yes. So I got the errand done. Heading back in the car. Heading back to Girard. So.
Girard. Good. Beautiful.
Girard. Yes. Hey. NFL offseason. What's your guys' impression so far of the NFL offseason? You know, were they open for business last
I
Wednesday?
like it. I love all
I
this
love
stuff.
this.
I always love it.
What I want to see, I just said it, is I want to see, this is what I really want to see more than anything. I want to see the New York Jets pick up the phone, call Lamar Jackson and say, okay, we want you, give Baltimore the picks, give Lamar Jackson his fully guaranteed deal, $270 million. I'd love, and tell the Packers, you know what? Nice dealing with you, but we moved in another direction. You could take, Aaron, and you got to figure that out. Now you got to find someone else that wants him. We're moving on. We want Lamar Jackson, and I would love to see the Jets get Lamar Jackson, give him his money, because I'm in favor of the players getting money, and I want to see Lamar get his money, and that's what I want to see. I just want to see that, and that would get everybody so fired up, and these journalists wouldn't know what to do with that.
Well, I would, because they want to kill Aaron Rodgers. And I know he's a guy off to his own drummer, as they say. But this guy said he'll play for the Jets. Now, he just said it. You could actually, it seems like it's a disconnect with Green Bay anyway. So I think he's done too. So you see the guy's not going to want to play with you. Why don't you go ahead and get this done?
Get the deal.
But the Packers just want to play around.
Right.
So screw them.
That's what I said. You just read my mind. That's exactly what I think.
That's all. And then they'll be upset. What we're going to do it there? We got him. We need Jordan.
Well,
you're going to have to do something.
Now you got to do something.
You better find another taker.
Somebody
will take him.
Call another team and see what compensation they want to give you.
Yeah, they're not going. There's going to be less.
Right. It'll be less than what you could get from the Jets. And then I would love to see Lamar Jackson get his guaranteed money and then drive all those owners nuts. See, that's what I want more than anything.
Yeah, they got enough money playing.
I want more than anything. I want Lamar Jackson to get his contract. I want him to get guaranteed money, and that's going to drive all those billionaire owners nuts. That's what I want to see.
Well, I hear a lot of people, and I know you guys have too, that cry about these NFL players with these contracts, especially when Watson happened.
Right.
But I don't hear them on a continuous basis say anything about Major League Baseball contracts or
NBA,
basketball.
Right.
I think NFL players should have a guaranteed contract.
I do too. It's the
the sport with their planet, they really are. Not that the others are not at risk if something happens.
No, but
theirs is more.
NFL's higher risk by far. By far.
Yeah. So what is the big thing? But that's what you hear all the time. So
and they're making the most money. NFL makes the most money of all those sports.
Yeah.
You could take the NBA and Major League Baseball, combine them. They don't make the money that the NFL makes.
Right.
The NFL
Plus, David,
is
in the NBA, those guys sit out games all the time, right? They miss 15, 20 games a year every year. They just don't play.
No,
it's unbelievable.
And that's the NBA. And I don't, here's the whole thing with the NBA. And I'm sorry. I watched, because of age-wise, generation-wise. I was a kid. I started watching NBA when I was 8 years old, watching the Celtics in 1964, and then 65, I was glued to the TV set. The game, there weren't a lot of games on back then, and people don't realize that. There was only one game on Sunday. I got to watch all the Knicks games on Channel 9, and they were replay games. Yeah. But the point is, WOR, very good, Dave Clark, and WPIX was Channel 11, the Yankees.
Yep.
Very good. Right. But all those guys back then played. All of them did, and they played 82 games, and they didn't. Nobody's. If they had injuries, I don't know anything about them, and they played every game. All of those players did.
Walt through Frazier, the 80s and 90s.
80s and 90s.
They did it too.
You could take 70, 60, 70, and the guys in the 60s weren't making a lot of money.
You ever remember Michael Jordan taking load
Never.
management.
I bet you if you
Larry
brought up
Bird, what's load management? I don't even know what that is.
Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, name that you go through the
Them
litany.
guys just be injured and still
You have
playing.
shopping lists of players from the decades that didn't take off, and the guys in the 60s didn't travel first class. They were They were in economy class on airplanes,
Yeah.
and there you got Bill Russell, who's 6'9" or 6'10", sitting in this seat back in the 60s with his probably knees up to his chin for 2 hours or whatever the point. And then they got out and they played.
Right.
They never took, and that's what blows me. And they didn't get a lot of money, and they traveled like crap. And they all played. Havlicek, Bird, Sam Jones. Name the players in the 60s. And they all played 82 games.
Yep.
And they never sat out. And they played back-to-back nights.
Yep.
I used as a kid, I used to watch them. I remember watching them play. It was unbelievable. But even you go generations, and it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's this generation. What the hell is load management?
Hey, Pat, Dave, my favorite story that got overlooked and people rarely talked about it was Kevin Durant. Now, in June of 2019, he was playing for the Golden State Warriors in the finals, and he tore his Achilles tendon. You remember that?
Right.
About 6 weeks later, in July of 2019, he signed with the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving, right? They teamed up.
Okay.
Well, obviously, you knew he wasn't going to start the season.
The whole year was
They
out.
kept saying he was going to be out the whole year of 2019. Now, March of 2020, we hit COVID, okay? And the NBA went away for 4.5 months, and they reconvened in the bubble down in Orlando in late July of 2020. You guys remember that?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
That was almost 14 months after his injury.
Yep.
And he still sat out late July, August, September, and October for the Brooklyn Nets. I don't understand. Usually a torn Achilles tendon is about an 8, 9, 10-month injury. When they reconvened in late July of 2020, I don't think there's any reason why he couldn't play.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, I used to think it was more than just that with that ankle. I really did. 'Cause I think it was torn from the beginning, and he went out and played, and he shouldn't have.
Okay.
Remember that?
Well,
Remember
wait
he
a
went
minute.
back and
All right, let me.
Yep.
Here, since you brought up Durant, he gets traded.
And I don't want to talk about Ben Simmons. I don't even want to talk about Ben Simmons. You want to talk about guys stealing money.
Kevin Durant.
Right? I mean, it's thievery.
But here's the latest on Durant. He rolled his ankle in practice, and he's not going to play now till the end. He won't play till the playoffs. So he's out now to the end of the season because he rolled his ankle in practice. So he's going to sit out the rest of this season.
Yeah.
I thought that was in warm. He got hurt in warm-ups about 3 weeks ago.
That was it. He got in practice warm-ups. He rolled the ankle. Now he played one game, and everybody was getting worked up about Durant's back. Phoenix is going to win the West. Blah blah blah. And then Durant rolled his ankle or hurt his ankle in the warm-up or practice, and now he's out for the rest of the season. Hopefully he'll be back for the playoffs. But then Phoenix traded away.
But that
Mikal
make you
Bridges.
wonder, is it just a roll ankle? Because a lot of these players, I don't think they want to sit out, some of them. Just sit there, I don't think some of them. Now, some might want to do that just
I don't know.
collect money. But a lot of them, I think they want to continue to play. And then these teams, I mean, the owners whoever it is, didn't think that way a long time ago. It's like an investment. That's my guy. So they don't allow them to play. And I just don't understand that.
I have never seen.
But I think it's something else more than just that ankle.
I've never seen so many injuries. Like I was thinking this the other day. Look at all the ACL injuries in football, in basketball. Guys don't get hit. And they go down and they crumble to the ground, and you've got these ACL blowouts. But I used to think, I hate to keep going back, but I don't remember seeing players in football, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
I don't remember all these ACL injuries in basketball and football and baseball, not. But I'm just saying, I've just never seen all these ACL injuries from prior years back.
Well, I remember a doctor came on and talked about it. The reason you didn't is because the thing that we think is so great with their weight programs and the different things they do, it actually puts more pressure on the joints in those areas than it did back in the day because they didn't do that type
No,
of weightlifting.
they didn't do that.
And now they have to because of the size of the player,
Because the
strength
but the
of the
bones
players.
aren't any bigger.
No, right. That's not any different.
Right.
Now you got more muscular guys,
but
and
right,
you know, and that's a lot of pressure on the tendons,
blowing on the tendon,
and that's why
the
you
knee.
blow those things out
Because
It
the
didn't
players
happen.
are too big.
They so big
for their tendons
and powerful. They were so much more
Oh, yeah.
powerful. And then they used Bo Jackson as, and he
Right.
was in the 90s, right?
Yep.
They used him as an example because he's in that midway.
Right.
He's not now, and he's not way back in the 60s. But they said he was a guy before his time where he lifted, but he wasn't a big weight lifter.
No.
He was just naturally muscled.
Yeah, he was just
And he was so powerful in his muscles. That's the reason that
Right.
hip went out.
Because
he
of-
just snapped it out because he was so
snapped it out 'cause
powerful.
He was so powerful. I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and he said that's what you see now on a regular basis with players because they've done built their bodies to be that powerful
Yeah.
that they are. So when they're yanked in a different direction, they're going one direction. Some other things happen that didn't happen back in the 60s and 70s.
Because
you know.
they weren't big. They weren't
Right.
muscular
Like that.
and
Right.
tight.
Right.
And muscle mass.
Yeah,
and their
muscle mass
bones
was not like
their
that. But the
bones and
bones are still
tendons
the same.
weren't. And you're running up and down a court 82 games, but your bones and your tendons weren't hauling that muscle mass up and down a court as they are today. Well, Zion Williamson's your prime example. I mean, here's another guy, very big, muscular, great player.
Yeah.
Very great. He's just ever on the court because he's got some kind of a problem. Muscle, tendon, tear, hamstring, name it.
Yeah.
He's got some issue. He never plays.
It's tough.
But he can play. He's a great player. I've
Yeah,
watched
he
him
is.
play. He's a
No
rebound,
question about that.
quick. The talent is there. I mean, it's not that, but he's just never on a court because he's always hurt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that
it
seems
was
to be the
interesting. I
players
watched it,
today.
yeah. I watched that little special and it was very interesting. And then I thought about it, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense because, you know, I'll look at and compare a guy that when I was playing at defensive back or a lineman compared to today's lineman. Oh my God, man, that's not even close. So I mean, it's just a.
But
big,
even the
big difference.
baseball players have strained quads, strained
Yeah, and
this,
they're bigger.
And they're bigger.
Yeah.
Like back then, when you see the players play, like here's kind of a funny, but it's a funny story, but a real story. Yogi Berra was being interviewed by Tim McCarver way back when Tim McCarver had this show on.
Yeah, I remember that.
Very good show. Great, great interviewer, Tim McCarver. Great, rest in peace, Tim Carver. Passed recently, but he was a great player. But I thought he did a great job as a host of his show. But he had Yogi Berra on, and he was talking to Yogi, and Yogi said, yeah, he was catching and a ball fouled off. He broke his finger. So then Tim McCarver asked Yogi, he said, well, how many games did you miss? And Yogi looked at him and goes, I didn't miss any games. He goes, what do you mean you didn't miss any games? Did you have to sit out the rest of the game? Yogi Berra goes, no, we just taped the fingers together and I finished the game and I played the rest of the season with the broken finger. I just taped it up every day to play. And I fell over because I'm thinking, my God, are you kidding me? Guys in baseball break a finger or anything, they're out like 6, 8, 9 weeks.
Well, I mean, look at Ronnie Lott during the playoff
Yeah,
game.
Ronnie Lott
He
took
said,
his
oh, wait a minute. This is not working right. Well, cut it off. Cut it off, and then I'll go back and finish the game. And that's what he did.
He did. The
He
finger.
got it, amputated, and went and played.
Because it wasn't going to get better. It was starting, and he said, fine, just take it off. And he did. He took it off. He was out playing. And I remember that because I remember they were on TV and he showed his fingers. It was gone.
Yeah.
It was like the half of it was gone. He goes, that's it. I said, what did you do? He goes, I had to take it out. What do you mean? Well, it was infected. It couldn't get better. And the doc said it would be better. It would be better off if we just took it. We just amputated it. I said, go ahead. It's only half my finger. I don't care. Because I got to play.
Yeah, it's different. It's just different now.
Professional sports is really, you take like a Ben Simmons now. They can't get him on the. He didn't want to play last year.
No.
They traded for him, and then even Durant and Kyrie Irving wanted him on the floor, and he wouldn't come on the floor for whatever reason. And he's only played in so many games this year. He's been out for the last month or so, and when you ask them when they're going to come back, they have no idea when he's coming back. It's like, at what point in time, like, if you're the Brooklyn Nets or any other organization, why would you want this guy around? Because he apparently doesn't want to play, right? I mean, that's a conclusion most people have come to.
Yeah. Well,
he doesn't want to play because he doesn't want to play.
Yeah. I think the guy needs some help. Seriously. I think it has nothing to do with basketball or anything. I think he needs some help, really. Because it's some psychological thing. 'Cause I think something else
I don't know.
is going on beside basketball. The guy has, when he does play, the skill set of passing, rebounding, defense, that's there. This guy has no confidence as far as scoring the basketball. He can have a layup and he will pass it back out. And that, I mean, you don't see basketball players that would do that. Even your guys that's not big scorers or do a lot of scoring, they are going to try to score. And
because I've read the latest on it. I kind of lost track of it. But you're right. He's not.
No, he's not playing.
He's not playing.
Mm-mm.
They're expecting him to come back and play at some time.
Oh yeah, they're gonna release that. I don't think they're not gonna keep paying him money, and he's not gonna be playing.
But he signed that 4-year, $197 million contract last year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in the second year of the deal.
Right. But I bet you that I wonder if it's something in the contract too that hey they can get rid of him after a certain amount of time. They might be locked in right now.
But he's got to get paid.
Yeah, he's got to get paid now.
See, the thing in NBA, no matter what, those guys all get paid their money. Now they could opt out and they get bought out, but I mean,
they still gonna pay him. Oh yeah,
they still got to get paid.
Oh yeah, they're gonna still get paid.
So
regardless,
he's going to get paid. Now, whether or not they find someone that wants him, but ultimately that's going to happen. I agree with you. They just said that he has cut ties with Clutch Sports. His agent has said this came up. That was within the last day that Ben Simmons and Clutch Sports reportedly agreed to mutually split.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 15 hours ago.
Yeah, that sounds right. Mutually split, because I can see them.
They don't want to sponsor goddamn Clark that's not on the floor, right?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and I believe, Clutch Sports is not great. Rich Paul and them guys have built something that is great, and they're not going to keep having a guy that can bring their product down. And he is. So, yeah, it was mutually. They can call it mutual all they want. It's one of those, you ain't got no other choice. We're getting rid of you. You're not going to be a part of our team here at Clutch Sports, and you're doing this mess.
Ben Simmons makes $35 million a year. He makes $35 million, and I believe, I'm looking this up, I believe he's in the second-year contract of the $35 million.
Right.
So that means that the Nets will have him under contract. Yeah, he gets $35 million this year, $37 million the following year. The final year of the contract, 24-25, he'll make $40 million. He is the highest paid player right now on the Brooklyn Nets, is Ben Simmons, and he's not playing.
Right, yeah.
So,
and see, this is the problem. That's why I know that they're going to have to get rid of him, because this is the thing. You got guys that's on there busting their tails every night, practice, everything else, and they're going to look over this guy. He's in a jogging suit, whatever stuff he got, and never playing.
And he's nothing
and he's
wrong
getting
with
all
it.
that money.
That's what they look at him and they go, why isn't he playing?
That mess up team.
Right.
They're not going to deal with that. So as soon as they can get out of that contract of some kind of way, they're going to do it, I believe.
Yeah, that's going to be the best interesting part here is what's going to ultimately happen with Simmons as far as how do they get out of that contract. You know there's no team that wants him because he doesn't play at all.
No, you can't go and pay that guy no money too. He has to redefine himself. He's going to have to come back and show that he can play again. Nobody's paying no big money wants to do that. And this guy, you don't even know what he's going to do. It's some psychological. He needs some help.
Yeah, he does. And I guess the question's going to come down to how does that play with the contract?
Yeah.
I mean, I know if there's some kind of an issue with him as far as from a mental part of the game.
Right.
I mean,
well, they got to do something. Man.
I don't know. I mean, that's what I've been hearing is like he just can't get himself ready to play.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be doing something. If I'm paying a guy that kind of money, you know, and I do want him to be a part of my team, and I know he has the potential to do. We done seen it.
He can play.
He can definitely play. We done seen it before. You have to get him some help. And if he can't get those things right, you let him go, but still get him help.
He's still going to get money. Yeah, he still gets paid.
He's going to get paid. Get him some help because, I mean, he's out there just a body on the court anyway when he goes out there.
It's just absolutely amazing.
I mean, I watched him play this season, and he did defensively great.
Yeah.
Setting up his players for Pat, great.
Great.
But when it came to, hey, they gave him I remember Kyrie gave him a pass. He needed to take the shot. He turned around and was looking for somebody else.
Yeah, he can't do it.
And you can't do
a
that.
mental
and
block
you
with
could see Kyrie was so irritated.
Yeah.
When he did that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have that.
Yeah, I don't know what that's just, you know, the Nets have $158 million is what they pay the entire team. And unfortunately, Ben Simmons is going to be getting paid $37 million next year and $40 million the following year. So, again, and I don't know how if they want to. I don't know if they could release him. They might release him, but they still have to pay him anyway.
Still got to pay him.
So,
but they definitely need to get that space between the ears checked.
Yeah, they got
to.
But that's
for
been
his
ongoing.
livelihood, period.
Yeah, that's been like an ongoing issue for a couple years now. Is that whole issue with him mentally?
Yeah.
You know, with the game and all that, and it's just, what do you do? I mean, the Nets obviously are under the impression they're in, and then on top of all this mess, the Nets are obviously a viable team for the playoffs. So, you know, they're right now, I believe they were like at number 4. They're at number what, 5? 4 or 5 right now in the playoff picture. So I think the way this thing is slated, or they might be 5. I know they and the Knicks are neck and neck. And that's the whole thing with the NBA, the way these standings lay. And these teams they're like sardines. I say they're like sardines in a can. They're just so tight, team to team. They're like a game behind one another. Yeah, right now the Brooklyn Nets are sitting at number 6. But they're only a game and a half over Miami and for the 7 seeds. Miami sits at 7. Miami right now is in the playoff tournament. The thing with Brooklyn is they obviously want to win because they don't want to get into that playoff tournament. Right. And they're only a game and a half right now over Miami. Miami's team is the 7th team, and they're the first team in the playoff tournament.
Right.
So,
hey guys, for the Cavs perspective, the Cavs looks like they're going to either get the New York Knicks and or the Brooklyn Nets in the first round to have the home court advantage, at least play out.
It looks that way.
I could see that going the full length of series, though. Don't you? I mean,
with those teams,
yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna tell you, Brooklyn does play pretty decent.
Yeah, they got good defense. Yeah, they're really good.
And they just play hard.
They play hard. They play hard for Jock Vaughn, their coach. They like playing for him, and they are a very good team. And I think that's the thing with Simmons is they either want him in playing or out.
Yep.
And I think they're trying to eliminate the distraction.
Right.
When they traded Kyrie Irving and obviously Kevin Durant within a 5-day time period to change their franchise, my buddy who follows the NBA religiously told me that they didn't get any superstars, but they got 3 or 4 really good basketball players, is what he said.
Yeah. Right. And they do. That's it. They definitely do.
So those guys are good players.
Yeah.
They're good players. They're not. They average like 15, 16, 17. They're not going to average 25 a game, but they're going to average 16 or 17. And he goes, they got 4 of those guys now.
Yeah. Well, I look at Bridges, who came from Phoenix. He was scoring 30 and 40 a night for a while. Yep. And you've seen that he could score, but you had so many options in Phoenix. He wasn't the main option. So you didn't know what his ability was. But they allowed to see that he could do that. Cam Thomas was doing that for a while. The young guy, only his second year, scoring like that. They got guys that can score. It would be an interesting series with Cleveland. I think it will. The Knicks will too. I'm glad that the Knicks did not trade Emmanuel quickly, like they were at one time. He's in a lot of
he
trade
was
talks,
supposed to be in the
and
trade.
that guy just blossomed, and
he's-
they know they got to hold on now.
Well, now they have to figure out a way to keep him long term.
because he'll be off and gone.
Right.
Because
they've got him one more year under contract.
Right. Yep.
After this, and then they've got to. So they got to look at getting him long term.
Yep.
Hey, gentlemen, have a great Saturday. Thanks for having me on. Have a great Saturday,
Thanks,
guys. Take
Irish
care.
Mike. Good. That's the music. Saturday Morning Sports Page. We'll be right back after a quick timeout.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Mill Creek Golf Course is the host venue for the AJGA PGA Hope Program, 8 high school teams, and 2 collegiate teams. Mill Creek Golf Course is your Callaway certified golf club fitting facility. It was named the PGA of America's National Merchandiser of the Year for a public facility 2022. Book your tee time at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Sherman Gillums Jr., Paralyzed Veterans of America.
For more than 70 years, Paralyzed Veterans of America has helped hundreds of thousands of veterans get all the benefits they've earned.
Al Kovac Jr., Paralyzed Veterans of America.
We provide one-on-one support tailored to your individual needs, including healthcare advocacy, benefit support, and career assistance.
For more information, call 1-800-424-8200 or visit pva.org. A public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Saturday Morning Sports Page right back at you, 330-707-4202. Dave Clark, we covered everything today. Looking at the NBA playoff picture, I know we're a month out from the playoffs starting, but and I know the NBA right now is kind of taking back seat to college basketball with the brackets and the March Madness. And there's obviously a lot of madness going on in March. There's no doubt about it. Purdue getting bounced out by Fairleigh Dickinson, Arizona getting bounced out by Princeton, 2 probably of the top upsets. But there's also been other upsets, Virginia being upset by Furman.
Right.
Penn State upsetting, I guess it was an upset, beating Texas A&M. But they really beat Texas A&M pretty significantly. So, interesting to see how ultimately Penn State has Texas tonight at 7:45. It's going to be obviously must-watch TV, I think.
Yeah.
And can Penn State keep their magic going with now they're taking on the second seed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll get to see just where they're at. You know, a lot of these teams catch teams by surprise, but sometimes it's not by surprise. It's the way they're playing.
They're on
in
a roll.
So we'll see just where they at against Texas tonight.
Yeah, Penn State played very good in the conference final, losing to Purdue, but they didn't let that loss affect them. Evidently, Purdue's victory against Penn State
didn't help them too much.
Arizona beating UCLA in the Pac-12 tournament, that didn't help them too much.
Right.
Both teams went out and were upset. Arizona was upset by the 15th seed Princeton, and then again the stunner last night that still people are talking about is Purdue getting rolled by Fairleigh Dickinson out of New Jersey.
Absolutely.
And it's the second year in a row they got beat. I think it was the third year. Irish Mike said, I'm still trying to find out what happened. Can't get this up. I pulling up Purdue, what happened to them in 2021. That was the COVID year, but they got beat by St. Petersburg in the Sweet 16 last year. Purdue did. So Purdue's had a rough go on the tournaments. Matt Painter is their coach, and not done very well in postseason. And unfortunately, with college basketball, as it does in just about all sports, what you do in either the playoffs or the postseason is what counts. And if you win a lot of games in the regular season, both in college and pro, doesn't mean anything if you lose in the playoffs or lose in March, especially in the first or second round in your if you're a big highly seeded team like a Purdue or a Arizona. And Arizona, just I don't know if they're totally snake bitten by the NCAA tournament, because Arizona year in and year out, they never do anything in this tournament.
No,
and I don't know. I mean, you can't blame the coach because you have a different coach now.
Yeah.
And again, this coach, they went out. I mean, people at Arizona, I mean, I believe it was Jay Billis had them winning the tournament.
Yeah.
And he was very, Arizona is the best team, blah, went into the big analysis. And he watches a lot of basketball games, but it goes to show you could watch these games and know these teams inside and out. But what you don't know is what are they going to do on one night?
Right. That's right.
And that's what makes that's what really makes the tournament. The NCAA tournament is what it is interest-wise, is because one night, if you have a bad shooting night,
it could be over.
And you're playing a team that's on roll and they're on a hot streak and they're hitting their shots, you could be the number one team and the best, by far, head and shoulders, the best team in the country and lose.
Yep.
Where NBA, you have the playoffs, 7-game series, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's a big difference.
Big difference. NBA tends to be chalk because normally the better teams win. The higher seed teams win. I guess the only teams that sometimes the 4 and the 5 seed, because they're real close, but usually the better higher seed teams, and they're usually the more talented teams win.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, the only thing you have with the NBA, what I wonder is, the Phoenix Suns are sitting at number 4 right now. They're 9 games behind Denver. Denver, obviously, the number 1 seed. But the interesting part that I find is if you drop all the way down, I mean, to right now, though, being 9, the Lakers are only 4.5 games, and the Lakers sit at number 10 tonight. The Jazz are also at 11, but they are only a half. They and the Lakers are literally tied for the 10th spot. The Lakers have it by 1 percentage point over the Jazz, who are now out. So the point is, though, this is how close these teams are. The Lakers and the Jazz are only 4.5 games behind Phoenix, who sits at number 4.
What are they, 34 and 37, something like that?
Yeah. The Lakers are 34-37. The Jazz are 33-36. Oklahoma City Thunder, who's right up past the Lakers, they're 34-36. The Timberwolves are 35-36. Golden State is 36-35. And then Dallas, who's 6, is 36-35. They're tied with the Golden State, but I believe they have the tiebreaker. And then the Clippers are 37-33. So
11 games.
If you take, and then Phoenix is 38-32. They're 4.5 games better than the Clippers, and they're sitting at 4. The Lakers are sitting at 10, and there's 4.5 games between basically 7 teams.
Wow,
that's how tight
They say the
is.
sardines in the can.
Yeah.
That's what this
Yeah.
reminds me of. Those teams are packed on top of one another.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a winning streak or a losing streak could mean a team going up 4 or 5 spots within the Western Conference.
Right.
And the Eastern Conference, there's a little bit of a difference because the Cavaliers sit at number 4. Right now, they're pretty locked in. The Knicks are 3 games behind them. At 5, Brooklyn's a game and a half behind the Knicks. They sit at number 6. But then the real tight, the Miami Heat are only a game and a half behind the Brooklyn Nets.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a drop-off more. It's 2.5 games between Miami at 7, Atlanta at 8. There's a little bit more of gaps. When you look at the Eastern Conference, there's bigger gaps between the teams in the East than there is in the West. The West is just literally they're on top of one another, half a game. East, you've got a little bit more difference in games when you're looking at the makeup of the Eastern Conference,
right?
Where there's a little, again, the gaps are bigger, not much bigger, but they're bigger. They're 2 games, 3 games. The West, they're a half a game apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not going to really, in the West, you're not going to know the seeding and maybe until the last day of the season.
Yeah, it's a good possibility.
There's a possibility that the way that West is mapped out, you're not going to really know who's in. I mean, as far as who's in and who's out, and then who's in the playoff tournament, and then who's not.
And who's playing who and everything.
Right. You won't really know anything until the last game of the season is played, who's playing who in the West.
Yeah,
the East, you'll have a better idea, but not in the West.
Yeah. That's a heartbreaker loss for the Lakers last night.
Yeah.
On the last second shot. The 2 nights ago, they came in flat. That's another thing. Can't do that under circumstances, but they played without Anthony Davis, and they were flat against Houston. They were down at one point, like 29 points.
But they
came
lost.
back, but they lost. They came all the way back, but it was an uphill battle, and they lost that game. That was a game you would almost look at and say,
that was
pencil
a
it
win.
in. You would think they'd win. And, they stand true to what they're doing, want to make sure Anthony Davis is healthy, where the back-to-back games on that foot, they don't want to do that too often unless it was the playoffs. So, he had to sit out that Houston game. And the guys did not play well, and then they caught fire, started playing well, but they dug themselves such a big hole. It was tough coming back. They were still there, had an opportunity, but when you're trying to climb out that hole, sometimes it's tough to win those games. So
And Houston's a bottom feeder,
right.
And that's the team. You see, when you look at that schedule, that's a win. Now you look at teams that are going to win. In the Lakers' eyes, that was a win.
Right.
The problem the Lakers have had in their last 4, they've lost 3 out of their last 4. They lost to the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Sunday night. Knicks beat them 112-108. They beat New Orleans 123-106, but then lost to Houston and then lost to Dallas.
Right.
And Dallas was probably a game they probably should have won. It was home.
Mm-hmm.
Houston was an away game, but Houston's strictly a bottom feeder, out of the picture, eliminated from playoffs.
Right.
But that's the game that they need to win. And the problem is now I know people talk, well, the regular season doesn't mean anything.
It does now.
Well, it does now.
Yeah, this is playoffs.
This is playoffs. You see, when I was watching the Knicks and the Lakers, that had playoff written on it. Like they were playing, those teams were playing hard, the Knicks hard because the Knicks are playing for a playoff position. They're trying to maybe catch a Cleveland, or they're trying to get into that next spot, that 4th spot. Now they're a little bit behind, but the point is, or they're maintaining their position. But this time in the NBA, which is good, is I know people blow with the seat. Well, it doesn't mean now it means something, especially when you're sitting in the West and you're the Lakers. You could play in and play out very easily. I mean, the Lakers could miss the playoffs, or they could actually play well enough to get out of the playoff, that little play-in tournament.
Yeah,
Thank you. And they could actually be above that, or they could be out of it altogether, because that's how close these teams are. The Lakers could be the 6th seed, or they could actually be the 6th seed. They could go either out of it or in. They could either, or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But right now, these games, each game has got really significant playoff ramifications here. So the Lakers can't really afford to lose many games here.
Right.
Because you're right on that cusp between being out of it or in it.
Yep.
And they're obviously trying to be in a position if and when LeBron gets back. They don't know yet because they're going to reevaluate. They should be. Wouldn't it be this week?
Yeah, I thought they said. I thought last night when they was playing, it says 2 weeks. I don't know. That's what they said. So I don't know if it was the end of this week or they meaning the end of the following week. He'll miss about 6-7 more games then.
Well, and this is when you start looking at the Lakers. Is when you start looking at their schedule and breaking it down. Like they've got Sunday night, they've got Orlando. So then they have Phoenix at home, Oklahoma City at home, Chicago home. There's 4 teams there. They should win probably 3 out of 4 there. They should beat Orlando. Phoenix is iffy. They should beat Oklahoma City. And they
Even
should
though teams have problems with that team.
But Oklahoma City is kind of a outlier.
They have all those
and they're
teams.
playing to get in.
Good.
See, they're playing well enough. They're in the picture here. Right now they're tied with the Lakers. They're just barely out by 1 percentage point.
Yeah,
so
I think
they're
they
right.
beat Golden State the other day. They beat Phoenix before, and they beat some of the upper echelons. Oh, it's a team that's nobody paying attention to.
No,
because they got a lot of young guys. Those young guys can play.
They can play. So the Lakers, when you look at their schedule, it's weird because it looks relatively doable because they have Orlando, Phoenix, OK City, then they have Chicago back to back. At Chicago, they have Chicago home Sunday the 26th, and then at Chicago the 29th. Then they have Minnesota at Minnesota on the 31st. Minnesota, though, in the playoff picture too.
Right.
And then they've got the Utah, at LA Clippers, Phoenix home, Utah home. But they have kind of a schedule there.
They could
win or out. And a lot of it is they're trying to be in position here. So when LeBron comes back, they're hopefully in the playoffs. And then with LeBron back, you can win those games and get in.
Right.
But if you're in a position where you're out by a game and you need to win, now the pressure is on you. And the Lakers are an erratic team. They play good and play not. They have on and off. It's going to be tough for the Lakers. Like I said, when you break this last Sunday, April 9th, is the last game of the season. Then they go to the play-in tournament. So you have less than a month less of this season. So you're really, 3 weeks left of the NBA season. And now you're going to see teams either get themselves in, and the Lakers are on that cusp where their hope is to get in the playoffs with LeBron healthy, and make the run and be the dangerous team in the playoffs.
Right.
But they have to get there.
Yeah. Yep. In the best case scenarios for them to be in the 7th spot or up and not worry about playing.
If they could get out of that play-in tournament and not have to play that week and rest LeBron and Davis, and they could get out of that play-in tournament and be above it, be at the 6th seed or higher, which is doable when you look at the conference standings. They could do that, but they can't. Obviously, they can't do it with losing games.
Yeah.
But they have to start winning a lot of games and hope the teams they beat, they move over. But if they continue to play this way, they could potentially play themselves out of it.
Right. Yep, for sure. We'll see what happens down the stretch.
And this is where the NBA gets real interesting. And I know, again, a lot of folks are into the college. March Madness is great because this is maybe the best time of the year for college basketball. Right. And this weekend here will give you the Sweet 16 Sunday after the last game is played. You'll have your Sweet 16 figured out in college basketball. And like I said, NBA people are kind of like forgetting a little bit about it, but actually now it's really important in the NBA. Between now and the end of March,
Yeah.
Because after college basketball is over, April 1st, I believe is the last day, whatever that Monday is.
Monday is the 3rd.
The third, then it would be the 3rd. The championship. Then the NBA only has 6 days left of the season because their season's over April 9th. So by the time the college basketball kind of is finalized, you're at the doorstep to the NBA playoffs.
Yep. There he is.
And those last 3 or 4 games in April may be especially when I keep referring to the end in the West Division, but those 4 or 5, those 4 games they play in April could mean the difference of being in and out.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what happens. So we'll see. And I did find out something with Purdue. They lost to North Texas.
That's it.
78 to 69
in 2021.
Yep. And let me see what they were a 13th seed.
They were a 13th seed.
Yeah.
So they lost to Northwestern in 2021.
Mm-hmm. To North Texas State.
North Texas State beat them in 2021.
Mm-hmm. And then St. Peter's.
St. Peter's beat them last year.
Yep.
And now
was that Fairleigh Dickinson?
Fairleigh Dickinson beat them this year.
Yep. And they've had this kind of situation. I look back, they lost to a 12th seed in Arkansas, Little Rock, and that was back in 2016, and they were a 12th seed.
And they were 12th. So that team in 2016, they lost to a 12th seed.
Yeah, and they've lost a lot of them. I keep going. VCU in 2011, they lost 11th seed. They have been known to lose to double-seeded teams.
Man, that like I said, you know what? Purdue's got one thing going for them, Arizona, because everybody's been focusing in on Arizona, losing.
Yeah.
They forget about Purdue.
Yep.
Losing.
Yep.
But Purdue's actually almost a worse loser, a bigger loser than Arizona.
Right. Yep.
So they've been having trouble in this tournament, but they've just had people keep focusing in on Arizona's pitfalls. But Purdue and Arizona are pretty much in the same boat when it comes to basically getting beat by double-digit seeds.
Yep, absolutely. That's something.
So moving forward with your bracket next year and in years to come,
I'm going to leave them out.
Leave Purdue and Arizona off your bracket.
Right.
Or just make sure they get beat.
Get eliminated
because they're going to be eliminated very soon.
Yeah.
Arizona and Purdue are like, okay, moving forward, keep them out of when you have your bracket. Don't carry them past the second round.
Yeah, they've had some very big time issues.
Because they've had some big issues. Yeah. And Purdue's always played great in the Big Ten. This year was they were by far the best team in the Big Ten this year. Yep. And Big Ten being one of the best conferences in basketball, very competitive conference.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people speculate that the reason why the Big Ten does not do well in this tournament is because they beat up on one another in the regular season, and then they continue beating up on one another in the conference tournament. Yep. So by the time the NCAA tournament rolls around, those teams have just knocked they've just knocked one another out. And so they have nothing left in the proverbial tank when the tournament comes around.
Yeah.
Because they beat up on one another.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that's what we've heard that.
We've heard that year in and year out, but I don't know what else it could be. It just seems to me it's always one of the best conference basketball-wise, but they continue to really flame out. And here the number 1 seed, Purdue, fell asleep at the switch last night, I guess.
Yep.
But they've done that, as you've said. You've documented the history quite well of Purdue basketball in the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm. So that's been
a
heck of a thing.
Since we're flying all over the board today, because that's what we do anyway, what is your feelings? What do you think is going to happen with Lamar Jackson? What do you really think is going to happen here?
This is one it's got me because I thought by now there'll be something. But I think feelings it seemed like for me right now, I don't know what's going on over there, but from the outside looking in, it looked like it'd be hard for me to want to even play there.
That's what I think too. Why do you want to go back with all this? Right.
This?
Why would you go back to Baltimore?
Yeah.
Rodgers doesn't want to go back to Green Bay. Yeah. Why would Lamar Jackson want to go back to Baltimore after all this?
Yeah. And that's the thing. You said right. Like Rodgers don't want to go back, and
right.
people be tearing him down. But I'm gonna go on Rodgers' side for one thing I've noticed. Probably the last 5 seasons. How many times have he asked for help with getting me a receivers, getting me offensive linemen, blah blah blah? Never.
No,
they wouldn't even do it. They don't even. Sometimes in certain drafts, they didn't even draft a receiver. Never went and got anybody in free agency.
Wasn't there a statistic that's saying that Aaron Rodgers has never had a receiver to throw to that's been drafted in the first round?
Never.
I believe that's a statistic at the Packers quarterback. He's never had. Devontae Adams wasn't a first round.
He's a second round.
Right, but that was I've heard that's what the supporters of Aaron Rodgers say, that he's never had
a first round
draft pick to throw to.
You have guys that I forgot what Jordy Nelson was, third, fourth round. Look how good he was. Greg Jennings, another second, third rounder. All those guys turned out to be very good. Cobb, all of them, but none of them was first round pick.
No,
and not to say that you have to be a first, but when a guy that you see is prolific, especially when you go back to those years, I mean, super prolific, and he just asks you to get me a lineman, and you don't do it. What is that all about? I just don't understand.
I don't get it.
And they've never done it.
No,
so
they never have.
Just as much as they're fed up with him, I'm sure he should be fed up.
Yeah, I think that's a mutually moving on. Jordan Love is waiting.
Yeah.
Let's see what Jordan Love is going to do. Let's see what this guy's got.
Yep.
You drafted him, you moved up, you traded up to get Jordan Love. Make the move, put him on the field, see what he's got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's an unknown. I put like Trey Lance, Jordan Love in the same boat. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
I want to see them play, roll those guys out, and see what either Trey Lance and Jordan Love have for you, and then the Niners and the Packers will make a decision.
Right.
But roll these guys out and see what you have. Jordan Love has been sitting on the bench longer than Trey Lance, obviously, but let's get on with it.
Yeah, you have to.
And you have to.
Yeah.
But Lamar Jackson, to me, I don't know what is going to happen, because it seems to me the teams are losing interest for whatever reasons out there. I don't know if people believe in conspiracy theories, collusion. You'll never prove anything. But if I'm the New York Jets, I'm getting to the point where if Green Bay continues to kind of like dodge and screw around with this thing, maybe they already have. Maybe the Jets have picked up the phone and they've called Lamar Jackson. They called Baltimore under the hush hush. What can we work out here? Maybe we could sit down with Lamar Jackson and work out a contract with him, and then work out the trade with Baltimore, and then we'll have our quarterback for 6 years.
Yeah, right.
And that's the direction we're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And sign him to the Deshaun Watson type of money where you can get it 5 or 6 years, then you can move the money around like they all do anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can guarantee it. Cleveland did it. And then, everyone's screaming and yelling, it's going to send a trend. Minnesota Vikings gave Kirk Cousins all guaranteed money, 5 years ago at $85 million, $86 million guaranteed, whatever that number. So what? The world went on.
Yeah. And I see they restructured his contract to get some more players, but I think it's also with the ability to, if he doesn't produce something to move forward, then they may go another direction too.
Right. They could.
Yeah.
And then some team will offer money. Like, Garoppolo signed a contract with no problem. Yep. Daniel Jones signed the contract with the Giants with no problem. I give Daniel Jones a boatload of money, but that's what they needed to do to keep him.
Right.
I'm a New York Jet fan. I'm sick and tired. I know that you want Rodgers, but Green Bay keeps screwing around.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone now. I would start figuring something with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you got to. You got to do something.
I'd start. Yeah, I wouldn't wait around. Get the deal worked out with Lamar Jackson. Then, if you're the Jets, and move on. Tell the Jets we'd love to have Rodgers, but hey, we've gone in a different direction. You guys figure it out. Then you got to get rid of him.
Yep.
That's the Saturday Morning Sports Page. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. We'll do it again next week. Stay safe. Do not drink and do not drive. And buckle up. Have a good week, everybody.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio. WRDB, The Scourge.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and I'm the center of attention at summer barbecues. In '96, I made some of the tastiest s'mores. And in '09, it was me, your backyard fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire